Imagine a late-night workshop bathed in the blue glow of computer screens, where a handful of people, engineers, dreamers, and a leader with a reputation for both brilliance and impatience, treat an idea like a prize already won. In that room, the future of cars felt inevitable, electric powertrains replacing combustion, software defining performance, and a brand that would not only make vehicles but rewrite expectations. Conversations were electric in more ways than one. If we can just get the battery density right, everything else follows, someone would say. Laughter followed deadlines like a ritual, and every sketch on a whiteboard read like a promise. Across town, in polished boardrooms and at investor dinners, the language shifted from possibility to deadline. Numbers were not abstractions but countdowns. Deliver X thousand cars by Q4. The spreadsheets demanded, and optimism tightened into pressure. Investors bought the vision with eager hands, and in return they wanted a rhythm: production, revenue, scale. The culture that had celebrated audacity now had to answer to cadence. That tension between invention and obligation is the first quiet fracture in every great company's story. Walking through the early factory, the sounds changed. The hum of prototypes gave way to the clatter of tooling, the cough of presses, and the steady worrying of managers tracing timelines with fingers. Faces that had once smiled in brainstorms now read like instruction manuals. Determined, exhausted, and increasingly defensive. A line manager muttered, "We're learning as we go," which is a kinder version of what everyone felt. We are improvising our way into mass production. The improvisation that fuels breakthroughs does not scale easily into reliable output. This is where the tale we're about to tell begins, not with a single dramatic failure, but with the slow accumulation of small compromises, deferred fixes, and heroic all-nighters that become the new normal. It's a story familiar to anyone who has watched a project stop being a passion and start being a firefight. Before we go deeper into the abyss that came to be known as production hell, tell us, which of these pains cuts deepest for you? Lack of discipline, lack of team, crippling anxiety, or simply not enough money? If you want more inside looks at how successful brands survive their worst days, subscribe quietly and we'll continue. The factory smells of oil and ozone. Under harsh strip lights, a hurried ballet unfolds. Engineers in hoodies sprint between stations with tablets in their hands, eyes hollow from sleepless nights. On the assembly line, robots and humans misstep alike. A door panel misaligned, a software update that resets a diagnostic, a battery module that refuses to seat. Each stoppage echoes like a clock striking down investor patience. In planning rooms, whiteboards are scrawled with optimistic targets that collide with reality. 3000/week, then 5000/week. Numbers that become promissory notes to markets and to a founder who had promised a revolution. The appetite for innovation meets the blunt arithmetic of production. Conversations turn urgent. We need cars out the door, not more prototypes. An operations lead snaps, voice rough with fatigue. A line mechanic looks up and replies, "We're fixing yesterday's mistakes, not building tomorrow's cars." The tension is tangible, not theatrical drama but the slow compression of human limits. Suppliers deliver parts late, robots require reprogramming, quality inspectors find that speed births defects. Each conquered technical puzzle reveals another. Stamping tolerances that shift with temperature, a paint booth generating modeled finishes, wiring harnesses that behave like living things. Morale frays as milestones are missed and celebrations become brief, brittle things. Financials sit like a shadow. Board calls cut into the nights. Analysts publish countdowns. The company's early halo, the charisma of a big idea, is tested by the day-to-day grind of repetition. Teams stop thinking in terms of grand strategy and start firefighting. Meetings to triage supply, late-night debugging sessions, whole weekends spent reworking assembly jigs. People burn out. Promises that once fired imaginations now weigh like obligations. Customers waiting, reservations counting as commitments on paper, capital ready to close if metrics don't improve. Yet in that pressure cooker, clarity begins to arrive in fragments. A supervisor who documents a recurring defect, a process engineer who sketches a simpler jig, a line worker who suggests rearranging a station to eliminate wasted movement. Small acts seed the possibility that this abyss might be navigable. If this scenario mirrors a challenge you've faced, like this video and tell us which pain hurts most. Lack of discipline, lack of team, anxiety, or short money. Ahead, we'll trace the pivot. How focused priorities and system design transformed chaos into repeatable process. The factory at night looks less like a temple of innovation and more like a ship taking on water. Conveyor belts frozen mid-motion, a row of robots with welding arms idling like soldiers with broken orders, and towers of half-finished chassis casting long, unnatural shadows under buzzing fluorescence. Inside, the air smells of burnt insulation and cold coffee. People move with the practiced exhaustion of those who have been fighting the same battle for weeks. An engineer rubs his eyes and says, "We built a machine we don't know how to feed." A line manager replies, voice low, "We can patch it tonight, but tomorrow it will be something else." The crisis is not a single cinematic explosion but a compounding pressure. An automated paint bay jams and backs up the entire flow. A supplier misses a scheduled delivery, and a missing clamp stops final assembly. Software meant to orchestrate thousands of tasks becomes a brittle choreographer. Brittle because reality keeps improvising. Every delay is visible to the world. Delivery numbers slip in headlines, stock ticks wobble, and the conference calls grow longer, more insistent. How many cars can you deliver this quarter? Investors demand. On the factory floor, the answer is whispered as a prayer. Not enough. Emotion thickens. Pride warred with panic. Teams that once celebrated prototypes now bicker over fittings and torque specs. Younger employees break down, older ones harden. Some blame automation. Others ask why so many systems were trusted to solve what used to be solved by human hands. Musk famously walks the floor, sleeping on a couch between stations, trying to be everywhere at once. He is at once galvanizing and terrifying, the source of hope and the embodiment of the deadline. "We either make it or we become a cautionary tale," he tells a small group, voice raw. This is the nadir. Deliveries delayed, cash dwindling, morale frayed. The dream's halo has dimmed into a ledger of late nights and missed tolerances. Yet even here, in the worst of the machine's choke points, there are small, stubborn sparks. A technician who refuses to accept a flawed weld, an assembly foreman sketching a simplified jig on a napkin. Which pain do you recognize most, discipline, team, anxiety, or money? If you want to see how those sparks became a plan and saved the mission, stay with us and subscribe. The method that turned chaos into routine comes next. The turn came not as a lightning bolt but as a long, exhausted exhale in a humming factory at 3 in the morning. Under sodium lights, engineers in oil-stained jackets and new interns with laptops clustered around a single stubborn station. Elon, worn but sharp, asked the simple question that had been drowned out by crisis. What must stop? An older line supervisor, voice graveled from nights on the floor, answered without theatrics. Everything that didn't move cars. That moment, choosing what to stop, was the bridge out of the abyss. What followed reads like a manual for saving any beleaguered project. First, ruthless prioritization. Features postponed, cosmetic choices deferred, and a single clear objective declared every day. Ship cars that meet safety and basic quality on time. Second, system design over heroics. Assembly steps were simplified, tooling redesigned so that errors couldn't hide, and manual workarounds were banished. The factory stopped being a place for improvisation and became a machine of repeatable practice. Teams learned to trust fast feedback loops. If a part failed, the line stopped, the root cause was found within the shift, and the fix was standardized before production resumed. You can picture the change in small scenes. A foreman snapping a checklist closed and walking it with a new recruit. A whiteboard full of metrics that no one ignored. Exhausted engineers trading sleep for structure, not sacrifice. Conversations changed tone. Can we ship this week? Became, what must we stop doing so we can ship this week? The language of scarcity turned into the language of process. For anyone who has ever been overwhelmed by a remodel, a startup, or a family project, the lesson is practical. Limit work in progress. Make one thing measurable. Design your workflow so mistakes reveal themselves early, and fix causes, not symptoms. Empower small, accountable teams and insist on documented, repeatable steps. Those are not glamorous choices, but they are what turn firefighting into routine. If this story resonated, leave a like, small but meaningful, and tell us in the comments which pain hurts most for you. Lack of discipline, lack of team, anxiety, or short money. Subscribe if you want more grounded histories and clear takeaways from the people who built success out of near collapse.